178% increase in over-the-year change in initial claims from mid-March to the beginning of November.
So I do have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of people that will be entering unemployment that were probably on it previously, during maybe the months of March through July.
The New York State Department of Labor says from September 2019 to September 2020, the private sector job count dropped more than 10%. The hardest hit industry, leisure and hospitality, with more than 19,000 jobs lost. Now, with the orange zone restrictions, that number could increase even more. So what happens if you have to file for unemployment a second time in 2020?
If somebody went back to work before their 39 weeks were used up, all they have to do is basically resume their claim.
If you have collected your 39 weeks of unemployment, you will have to apply again. But the way unemployment is calculated, it uses the last 4 quarters. So if you haven't been working,
that's going to be minimal income, and it's going to be a very low calculation on what they're eligible for unemployment. You can do something where it says there's an alternate 4th quarter where you can go way back, maybe when you were still working, and they'll use that.
But without the help of federal dollars, can New York State even afford more unemployment claims?
Closing down businesses, you're not collecting sales tax. People are not making money. You're not going to be collecting income tax. Where's the money going to come from to fund it? My understanding is that the federal government still has some money in reserve from the first stimulus that can help out. But is it going to be able to handle it for an extended period of time? I don't believe so.
Congress has yet to agree on the details of a second stimulus package, which would likely include more federal pandemic unemployment compensation. That program ended July 31st. Olivia Proya, 7 Eyewitness News.
This is all a lot for all of us, right? And 7 Eyewitness News taking your questions about these latest COVID mandates, from helping filing for unemployment like we just heard, to testing timelines, to what businesses can still stay open. Tonight, 7 Eyewitness News reporter Hannah Buehler is getting answers for you.
An orange zone designation for much of Erie County means restaurants, bars, barbershops, and salons find themselves right back where they were during the first wave of the pandemic. But Darlene writes, what about casinos? Do they have to close? What about movie theaters, bowling alleys? This is a question 7 Eyewitness News has been trying to get an answer to all day. Under the new state cluster zone guidelines, any business with a state liquor license must close at 10 p.m. The Seneca casinos operate under their own guidelines and say they're working on a plan. But as of right now, the only alcohol service at the casinos has been with sit-down dining. And the Senecas say there hasn't been sit-down dining since the 13th of this month. Movie theaters we talked to say they've had no guidance other than their reopening guidelines, up to 25% capacity and no more than 50 people in front of each screen at once. And it appears bowling alleys can continue to stay open. However, with 50% occupancy, every other lane closed, and no more than 10 people per party.
They have to follow prescriptions with regards to the amount of people on a lane and so forth. You can't have more than 10 per gathering. If you were going to have a birthday party with 25 people at a bowling alley, you can't do that.
However, as of tomorrow, there will be no indoor dining allowed in an orange zone, so bowling alleys in most of Erie County will not be allowed to offer food. A spokesperson for Kenmore Lanes tells us it will be closing voluntarily for a couple of weeks while this all gets sorted out. Pam from Amherst writes, in an orange zone, are dog groomers still going to be open? Yes, the Erie County Health Department says dog groomers will remain open under the orange zone designation, as those businesses are not listed in the restrictions from New York State for microcluster designations. Lastly, as family and household transmission remains high, Maria from West Seneca asks, if one person tests positive in a house of 3, how long does everyone need to quarantine?
So the 14-day quarantine is the time frame where if you're going to become symptomatic, you'll develop symptoms. It's also possible that you may be asymptomatic. And so until those 14 days are up, you need to avoid interactions with others.
Dr. Thomas Russo from the University at Buffalo says each member of the household should stay away from the infected person, but the entire household should quarantine at least 14 days. This means even if a member of the household has tested negative, it doesn't necessarily mean they are.
Erie County leaders urge everyone to stay home right now and say these restrictions could get even worse if the virus is not contained. Reporting in Buffalo, Hannah Buehler, 7 Eyewitness News.
All right, thank you, Hannah. And if you have a question about the COVID-19 pandemic, we want you to reach out. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'll try and get the answers for you. We have a link on WKBW.com tonight to submit those questions specifically, again, about coronavirus.
And hey, if you don't get your answer within 24 hours, don't worry, we have it. There are just a lot of questions out there. All right, still to come, for those of you who missed out on the Great Pumpkin, well, the gang is back.
Yeah, tonight, how you can hook up with Charlie Brown and company for both Thanksgiving and Christmas.
In just a bit, we'll meet a teacher who came up with a great idea for a kid's book and then published it. It has to do with coronavirus. I'm Mike Randall. We'll have that story coming up.
You're watching 7 Eyewitness News with Jeff Russo, Ashley Rowe, and 7 First Alert meteorologist Andy Parker.
Hey, take a look at this line for COVID-19 testing in Buffalo's Cobblestone District. This is right next downtown to the arena. If you think this wait is long, the wait to get a free test from New York State is growing longer. Tonight at 6, 7 Eyewitness News reporter Jeff Slauson takes a look at what's causing these delays.
As part of our Rebound Buffalo initiative, we are focusing on getting you back to work. Do you remember this flyover in honor of our frontline workers? The man who brought you this special high-flying honor is back in May, is now helping Western New York once again. 7 Eyewitness News reporter Ed Reilly tells us more about Todd Cameron's flight plans.
And so many people I've talked to this year have said, you know, I'm working remotely, the kids are off to college, or I got a degree in something I'm not enjoying. I have always wanted to fly.
After 6 decades of training local pilots, the Pryor Aviation Service Flight School was acquired at the end of October by a Rochester company called Encore Aviation. For owner Todd Cameron, it means he can now open advanced flight training schools at both the Niagara Falls and Buffalo airports.
We'll have a much larger offices, classrooms, briefing rooms, co-located with the airplanes.
Flying is a passion for Cameron. This past May, he spearheaded Operation Thanks from Above as planes from the National Warplane Museum in Geneseo overflew Western New York to salute essential workers.
We ended up being the largest of the thank you flyovers in the country.
One of Cameron's goals is to work with local schools to help students develop a career in aviation, as there is a growing shortage of pilots.
In 2 to 3 years, airlines are going to have the same pilot shortage. The demand for private and corporate charter will continue to grow.
Using new airplanes with state-of-the-art glass cockpits, joystick-style flight controllers, and advanced flight simulators, students from teenage to senior can learn to fly.
And I thought, what an incredible career, flying airplanes, good benefits, good pay.
The Encore schools also provide the training and 1,500 hours experience needed to become a commercial pilot.
Well, I've loved speed since I was a kid, cars, airplanes.
26-year-old Sam Kramer is one of many Encore students who are looking to switch careers.
A lot of time to go, but I'm confident we'll get there.
The RIT graduate was working in public relations, but after getting hooked through a discovery flight, he's now learning to become an airline pilot.
Finally, we'll have me in that pilot seat. I can't wait. It's a dream.
Besides Rochester, Niagara Falls, and Buffalo, Cameron told us he's also looking to expand into 2 other parts of Western New York to help meet the growing demand for pilots. Ed Reilly, 7 Eyewitness News.